Okay, I'm live now. Hi, welcome everyone. It's good to see you again. It's Marci Brockman. I'm here for my latest installment, the November 1st installment of Book Talk Sunday. Let's see if I'm actually online. I'm trying to see this on my phone at the same time. I'm using the BeLive.com app again to stream through into Facebook, and I'm not really sure how to see chats here, like who shows up and who I'm chatting with. So it's sort of an experiment as we're going. I wonder if I open Facebook in a different window. Everything's always an experiment. If I open Facebook in a different window to which I am streaming, I can likely see. Yeah, I can see the comments if people are here and making comments. Yeah, I can do it that way. Okay, that's awesome. Of course, now I have to look at myself live, which is very peculiar. Anyway, so it's like I said, it's Book Talk Sunday. It's I'm in New York and it's already dark and it's 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock? Yeah, 6 o'clock. We're heading towards that time of year where it's getting darker earlier and we're getting closer to winter. We just set our clocks back last night and I totally forgot about it, but I guess I got an extra hour sleep out of it, so that's a good thing. Yeah, the whole thing is very strange. I wonder who's here. If you're here, you're one of the few people who are here. Why not say hi? Let me know who's watching and if you can hear me and that sort of thing. Feel free to chime in with discussion or ideas or questions or opinions. Today we're going to talk about a book called Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. I read this book last summer in July of 2019 as I was recuperating from my complete radical hysterectomy. So I was doing a lot of thinking about sexuality and femininity and what makes women women and the emotional and physical relationships that men and women have, or women and women have. And it happened to come out at exactly the same time that Elizabeth Gilbert's novel, The City of Girls, came out. So I went from reading The City of Girls to reading Three Women. And I think I found Three Women because Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a quote at the top of the book. She says, "Extraordinary. This is a nonfiction literary masterpiece. I can't remember the last time a book affected me as profoundly as Three Women." And then I found this article in Oprah magazine, this article here, Carnal Knowledge. For her first book, Lisa Taddeo enters the realm of the libido. So basically, so if Elizabeth Gilbert and Oprah are looking at a book and almost every news outlet that talks about new books was talking about this book, I had to read it and see what was going on. So what Lisa Taddeo did, which I found extremely profoundly interesting. I'm going to try to here not look at myself at all. So I'm not focusing on how my bangs look or whatever, which I always find annoying. But I do need to look at the screen so I can see who's talking, if anybody's commenting. Okay, so Lisa Taddeo, I had never heard of her before this book, but she evidently is a journalist and a reporter and has worked for writing stories for lots of famous media outlets. Probably plenty of things I had written but never paid attention to the byline. But what she did was, for 8 years or more than 8 years, she traveled the United States looking for stories of sex and desire and love and sought to make a study of what fueled desire, emotional desire, sexual desire, how that affected the people involved in the relationships and the people that they knew, etc. It's just an amazing study, an amazing storytelling feat that's nuanced and empathic, as she basically follows the story, the true story, as they have told it to her, of three women. And she found these women and corresponded with them. She spoke on the phone with them. She spoke to every person who knew them, their parents, their friends, their classmates, their teachers, their business associates, everyone that she could talk to sort of triangulate a real round, dynamic description and understanding of who these three women were. And then focused telling the story from their point of view. So we get these really incredible, riveting stories, one of which resonated with me a lot more than the other. But we get a suburban Indiana housewife named Lena, who's the mother of two. She's been married for a decade. Her marriage has completely lost its passion. She's lonely. She's starving for affection. She's having panic attacks. And I can totally relate to these things. And she meets an old flame through social media and starts an affair. It becomes totally all-consuming. She goes to therapy with her husband as they're trying to sort of figure out how to fix their marriage, if she can fix their marriage, and he won't kiss her on the mouth, and the therapist doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. And, it's just very interesting how she tries to separate herself and figure out who she is apart from her marriage to this guy, who we quickly sort of begin to see as just a big raving jerk. I didn't like him, and I felt for her, having been in a rather loveless, unintimate, cold, lonely marriage for over a decade, and then somehow figuring out how to pull myself out of it. I kind of felt for Lena. The next story, actually the first that we see, is Maggie's. And Lisa Taddeo tells the story of these three women in alternating chapters. So their stories unfold in very different ways. And we get, one chapter of one and then a chapter of another and another. So you sort of builds the tension and the story arc as you go. So the second person that I'm going to talk about, the second one of her characters, is Maggie. And Maggie, I was really able to very easily connect with on a visceral sort of way. Not that this happened to me at all, but she's a North Dakota 17-year-old high school student. And she, has the same feelings that everybody else feels, the same ideas about herself that every other 17-year-old girl or anyone who's ever been a 17-year-old girl can sort of get connected with. And, if you look at my book, I've got all these Post-its all over it. But, Maggie, there's just lines like this. It says, Maggie's destiny arrives one afternoon without a clarion call. It comes on cat feet, like everything else in the world that has the power to destroy you. Such evocative writing. Maggie's at that precipice, possessing still the dreams of a child, but now able to press them up against the potential of an adult, as she's sort of figuring out what the heck she wants to do with her life. She's likes boys her own age. She's very interested in the acceptance of the girls who she knows in her class. And yet she's now connecting with a high school English teacher. She says it's funny and nice and only mildly creepy when teachers share intimate facts about themselves. It makes them less teachery. You can relate better to teachers who walk the earth with you, who catch colds and want things they can't afford and don't always feel attractive. And so she likes this guy, but she's, feels a little put off by his honesty with the class. And truthfully, this quote I had underlined last summer resonates with me because this is the kind of teacher that I aspire to be, the kind of teacher who is a full-fledged, flawed adult, human. And I want the kids to know certain age appropriate things about my past, about my mom, about my relationships with my family. I'm very candid about the story, about the book that I wrote. I'm candid about all sorts of things as we write and explore relationships and explore ourselves through literature. And so it's interesting to me to hear what Maggie's take of this is, because she does begin a clandestine physical relationship with this teacher, this married English teacher who had been the year before named the state's teacher of the year. And when she was 17, she has this affair with him, and he knew better. Um and, and didn't protect her the way he should have as her teacher, and didn't protect himself. And we hear about all of this from her perspective here. Here's this one part that I actually I'm going to read. I quoted here the most excruciating part of his annotation of Maggie's favorite book. So she loves the Twilight series, which I also loved, despite the fact that it's controversially crap. I loved it. But she gives them the book Twilight to read, and then reads the annotations he writes in the book. And he wrote this to her: "I am your vampire lover, and you are my forbidden fruit. We are your favorite love story. For the rest of your life, nothing will taste like this. Can you imagine?" Uh, this is clearly a man who is completely off the rails here. And so, when she's 17, she has this affair with him, and she doesn't quite say anything or report it until she's 23 years old. You can get it. She's finally an adult. She's has the mental capacity to sort of realize that what he did was endanger her, and what he did was, not was a betrayal of her as a vulnerable young woman who he was supposed to nurture as her teacher. And so she goes through this long, embroiled, crazy, overly public court case and legal battle, and the whole town's involved, and they're hurling names at her, and it's just so vivid and crazed, and it's a true story. So I looked it up on the internet, and yeah, you can read the whole thing yourself. And then we meet Sloane, who's a gorgeous, successful, refined restaurant owner. She's happily married to a man who likes to watch her have sex with other men and women. He finds them, and sometimes she has these clandestine meetings with them. Actually, not so clandestine because the husband's arranging it. Sometimes she has these illicit meetings with them in private, and sometimes she has them while her husband watches. And he selects them, and he gets off on watching them do these things to her. And she says Sloane has always mixed her worlds. She didn't fear contamination. If anything, the potential chaos was exciting. She loved these things. She learned the trick. She learned was never to be honest, and always never to actually lie. I just, how do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile never lying, never being honest, but also never actually lying? It sort of reminds me of that little section of my life where I'd been catfished by that guy, Stuart, that I met online. They, he out and out lied, but I'm sure if we sit and think about it, we can think about times where people we knew weren't honest with us, and at the same time didn't out and out lie, that they told nuances of the truth or pieces or fragments of things that could be truthful that were vague enough to not be blatant lies, but subtle enough to sneak past or under our radar. It's interesting to think about that in connection to relationships. Here's another from a Maggie section, another line I thought was amazing. There are people out there who are like trains in the distance, glorious and forward moving and unswerving, and she wants to be one of these. But sometimes she falls on the sword of her own desire and lies there and repents too late and too incorrectly for anyone to want to save her. And I think I have felt like this in my own life, especially as a younger person. Truth be told, even in my mid-40s, when I was trying to figure out who I was after my divorce, after my lonely decade-long marriage, I wanted to be forward-moving and unswerving. I've always wanted to be one of those really, really graceful, classically spoken. I don't know how to describe what I mean, but who always says what she means and always means what she says, who moves with grace and peace and like she's gravitationally attached and balanced on this earth with both feet and just always exudes this confidence. I've always sort of felt like I wanted to be that woman and struggled because I'm not her. I was trying to be somebody who I thought I would look up to, I think. But ultimately, I'm just the quirky, weird, silly, bohemian, erratic, kind person that I am. I am just whoever I am, and I'm not that graceful person, as we learn by my many injuries. Yeah, I don't know how to fit this in here, but here's Maggie talking about other people. They won't be honest even in their own brains, let alone in a courtroom where everything you say can be used against you. There is no humanity in humans. You palm your arm to smooth down the shivering hairs. They're picking up on the breeze of self-hatred. Like she's in this courtroom and people are fabricating the truth around her and they're not believing her and they're calling her names and all this stuff. They're picking up on the breeze, the hairs on her arm are picking up on the breeze of self-hatred. I mean, the writing is just extraordinary. And the way she tells the stories of these women, you really start to feel for them much more than you would judge them, which I think was ultimately her plan. Ultimately, I think that was what she wanted to do. She wanted us to feel empathy toward these women and not harshly judge them, not judge them at all, but to see them as flawed, desiring, desirable women that we all are, you know. That Yeah, the stories are told in a riveting way. I think I read this book in like 2 sittings, and I'm a slow reader. Considering I'm an English teacher and a writer, I feel like I should read faster, but I don't. And I couldn't put it down. She attempts to look from the outside into these women's lives and give us a glimpse of what happens behind closed doors. I'm going to read you a quote that she has in the beginning. She says, a Charles Baudelaire quote, "Looking from outside in an open window, one never sees as much as when one looks through a closed window. There is nothing more profound, more mysterious, more pregnant, more insidious, more dazzling than a window lighted by a single candle. What one can see out in the sunlight is always less interesting than what goes on behind a window pane. In that black or luminous square, life lives, life dreams, life suffers. Very profound. So we're not looking at what these women would admit in public or in a PTA meeting or somewhere else in the full light of day, but really taking a look at what they reveal in their own hearts, the secret desires that keep them awake at night, that forge their own internal identity and help them figure out how to get in touch with their own true, authentic desires and how they want to manage their connections with others, I think, is really the part of it. You know, how do we allow ourselves to be connected and sexually involved with other people? How do we connect our physical desires with our emotional desires and our social desires? I don't think that as a young person, many people can figure out the nuances and the knots of emotion that are triggered, that are involved in a complicated human sexual love, lust, respect, whatever relationship. And there are quite a few people who were into the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh decade of their life who have yet to figure that out. What that means on a human level, what that means to them personally. And I think books like this that are thought-provoking and ask questions and are provocative glimpses into human behavior and the human heart are invaluable in helping us figure out what all of that means to us, particularly in the quiet, as we think, as we sit with ourselves and listen to the beating of our own heart. What do you really want? And how do you feel about what you've done? Or how do you feel about where you've been? And what does that tell you about who you are and where you want to be? It's all very interesting. It's all very inspiring. Okay, so that's Book Talk Sunday. You can get it wherever books are sold. They sell it in every possible version: hardcover, softcover, Audible, audiobook, ebook. You can get it through the Libby app through your library. You can get it anywhere books are sold. I strongly recommend in this day and age to buy from independent bookstores because Amazon does not need more of our money. And my book, Permission to Land, Searching for Love, Home, and Belonging, is also available at independent bookstores, at big bookstores, on my website, marcibrockman.com, as well as Audible very soon. I should be getting the approval from ACX and Audible that my audiobook will be available on Audible and iTunes and wherever audiobooks are sold. So that should happen within a week or two tops, and I will let you know. Please join me here in 2 days. Actually, it's on election day at 8:30 on Tuesday night for the next edition of Ask Me Anything. Please send me through Facebook Messenger. Please send me your questions if you have any questions for me. I will also be posting a little bit later tonight a reminder on Facebook and on my Instagram at Marci Brockman 527 about Tuesday's Facebook Live. So you can always post your question there if you would like. The more questions you ask, the more interesting the episode will be. And please join me live and ask questions live if you have a question that you want to ask live, because I kind of relish the idea of answering a question live and being for you there in real time. What else do I have to say? I think that's it. But absolutely make sure you remember to vote. Make sure you have a plan to vote. If you voted like I did through the mail, through early, you can contact your local board of elections to verify that your vote has been received and therefore counted. If you live in New York, for some reason, New York does not have online vote verification, so you have to call your local board of elections and ask them if they've received your ballot. If you've done it by mail, I need to do that tomorrow. If you're in another state that has online verification, you can just go to the website. I know my stepmom and my dad vote in Florida. That's their primary residence, even though they are currently in New York. So they checked with the Florida Board of Elections and found their absentee ballots. So please, 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 please vote. This is the most important election of many of our lifetimes. And we will find out what happens hopefully Tuesday. I pray for the solvency of this country. I hope that we can find unity and compassion and humanity and kindness as we move forward into a brighter tomorrow together. All the divisiveness and the anger and the misunderstanding and the fear and the violence that has been inflicted in this country in the last few years, especially since the pandemic started, has been very disheartening to say the least. So I'm very hopeful that as of this election day, as of this first week in November, we can all join hands metaphorically and move forward together into a better, brighter, more peaceful, more humanitarian and kind spirit. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you for joining me. If you're here live, thank you for tuning in. If you're catching me on the replay, thanks for watching. Please share with your community. And if you have a book that you would like me to review, pop it in the chat below, and we'll talk about those books on future episodes. I would always rather speak about what you guys want to hear about. If not, I will just randomly go to my bookshelf like I did today and pluck out a book I want to talk about. I'll never run out of books that way, but I'd rather talk about books that you guys like. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. This has been Marci Brockman, and this is Book Talk Sunday. Don't forget to vote. Talk to you soon.